Hi everyone, I'm back on here with another random video for today. So I was just thinking about the power of beliefs, okay? The things that you actually believe, which is something I've talked about before, but it's so powerful. I've taken some notes on my phone. So if you see me looking down, this is what I'm looking down at. First things first, when we were all kids, we learned to deal with emotions that we felt were unpleasant. We learned to deal with them in certain ways and understand. Okay, here's some examples like disappointment, jealousy, sadness, just to throw a couple out there. So now we were not saying these words. It's just that if disappointment presented itself, if guilt presented itself, if anger presented itself, we thought and did certain things to help us navigate and get through that, right? So imagine being 6, just to throw an age out there, right? You are developing these coping strategies with your 6-year-old brain. But the thing is, like, as we go throughout life, now you're 8, now you're 11, now you're 15, now you're 20, now you're 25, and so on and so forth. And we just keep using the same coping strategies, which would be fine, you know, if they weren't damaging. Now, a lot of them are damaging. A lot of them are just not as helpful as they were. And more importantly, in my opinion, is there are better strategies available with the information that you know. Okay, at 6, when you initiated this, right, you were 6. By the time you're even 8, you have better tools, you have better ways, you have more knowledge and more information. So for sure, by the time you're 30, 40, 50, 60, you just have more information, and so it's not often, on our own that we'll go back and update these coping strategies, right? So we just keep using the same ones over and over. So you can imagine the type of issues this would cause. Not only that, when things are playing out, we're telling ourselves stories about what happened. So we're explaining it to ourselves, what happened. Also, when these things happen, we're walking away with new beliefs about the world. Like, how did we interpret that thing that just happened? So I want you to imagine a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, 12-year-old, 15, so on and so forth. The story development likely changes. The beliefs that we take away from that incident likely changes, but we don't update it. We don't update it. So we just believe the same things. We tell ourselves the same stories, but guys and girls and everything in between, we know differently now. We're smarter now. We have greater emotional intelligence now. So it's time to update the system, update your system. The kid you was doing the best they could, but they were ill-equipped. And you may be thinking, well, I'm ill-equipped now. Valid, okay? But you're more equipped than you were then. Anybody watching this or listening to this, if you are older, if time has passed, you're more equipped. You're more equipped now. So the stories that we've been telling ourselves, the things we believe, it's like a lens, through which we see the world. So now start to think about some of the interpretations, it's jaded, and you can look at that the way you want to look at it. You can see how this might be even a good thing sometimes, right? But oftentimes it's not. And when I say it's not, I mean, like, the way you see things, is it an impediment to your most optimal functioning, right? If that's the case, then I would say it's not a good thing, but I try to stay away from good and bad because so many reasons, but we'll make another video for that. So lastly, I did want to mention, go back to your 6-year-old inner child, right? And think about, as you were growing up, what you imagined your adulthood would be like. You probably had it all planned out, had it all mapped out, right? And maybe you had a lot of details. Really think about the chances that things would play out exactly how you imagined. And the reason I want you to think about that, right? The percentage is probably close to 0. The reason I want you to think about that is because a lot of times people are suffering because life didn't turn out the way they had imagined, right? So I think what's important, when you are distraught might be a heavy word, heartbroken might be a heavy word. Anyway, when you realize it's not going to play out that way, sometimes we go through some stuff, right? And that can be a hard reality to kind of face. But when you are heartbroken, if we're going to use that word, then your heart is now open. Okay, and so you're able to take in different things or take things in differently. So decide what you're going to do as you reimagine what your life is going to look like and how it's going to play out, with an understanding this time that there's no way to predict all of that, right? Also, while time is passing, you're becoming better equipped to deal with, if you want to call it a disappointment, okay? You're better equipped to deal with these surprises and these disappointments, and they can mean what you believe they're going to mean. But it's difficult to shift your beliefs. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to believe it. So, obviously I'm a huge advocate for therapy, and I don't think that's the only way to create this shift, right? But try to reimagine, and the limits that you're thinking of are only limits if you say they're limits, right? But if you look at this another way, you can really use these limits as leverage. You can use your excuses as the reasons why you absolutely have to do these things that you've been putting on the back burner, or telling yourself that you're not capable of doing. But I know that was a little random, but I just wanted to share a little something that was on my mind for today. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. And if you're not, try to make it one if you can. All right.